In Your House 13 Final 4 took place on the 16th of February 1997 in Chattanooga, Tennessee, drawing in a reported 6,500 fans. The draw of this show was the Final 4 match itself, where the WWF Championship was up for grabs. We'll talk about this a little later on. Every other match on the card had no build-up whatsoever. The special episode of Raw that aired on Thursday before the Final 4 focused on the WWF Championship, and therefore no other matches were built up, which is kinda crazy when you think about it. It's a good example though of the importance of promoting matches beforehand. As many would say, the only good thing about this show was the Final 4 match itself. We're going to watch the whole show today, plus the free-for-all. You don't need to watch Reliving the War in order to enjoy this upload. And just before we begin, I said on Reliving the War that I was actually going to cheat here and use my previous Final 4 video to save some time. But after hearing how bad the audio was in that video, I've decided to do it properly and talk about the Final 4 match again and add new commentary. So let's get started. This is In Your House Final 4. The Final 4 free-for-all is a great companion piece for the pay-per-view itself, and if you're going to take some time out to watch the main event of the show, I highly recommend watching the free-for-all also. The trend continues during the free-for-all, with the WWF only focusing on the Final 4 match, but you get some good promos here from everyone involved in the bout, and the story of the main event gets completely laid out here. It starts off with Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler introducing us to the show, but they immediately get interrupted by Steve Austin. So before continuing on, I'll need to catch those who don't watch Reliving the War up on why this Final 4 match is taking place. Stone Cold Steve Austin was eliminated from the 1997 Royal Rumble by Bret Hart, but Austin decided to jump back into the ring while the referees were distracted. Austin then illegally eliminated Vader, The Undertaker and Bret Hart, and Stone Cold was named the winner of the Royal Rumble match. The next night on Raw, Bret Hart quit the WWF. He was tired of getting screwed over, and the Royal Rumble finale was seemingly the straw that broke the camel's back. A little later on during the Raw broadcast, Gorilla Monsoon came up with the Final 4 match. Those three men who were illegally eliminated by Austin and Stone Cold himself would get another chance to headline WrestleMania. All they had to do was win a no disqualification match at In Your House. The match, named the Final 4 match, would feature eliminations via pinfall, submissions, and also you could get eliminated by getting thrown over the top rope just like the Royal Rumble. Bret Hart agreed to come back for the match, and so everything was going to plan. Shawn Michaels then lost his smile. HBK said he had a knee injury and he vacated the WWF Championship. It was then announced that the winner of the Final 4 match would become the new WWF Champion, meaning the stakes were raised big time for tonight's main event. Psycho Sid, who was scheduled to wrestle Shawn Michaels for the title at Thursday Raw Thursday, is going to face the winner of the Final 4 on the Raw following In Your House. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to learn about what happens on the February 17th episode of Raw. Trust me, it's an interesting one. Okay, so now we know who, what, where and why in regards to the Final 4, so let's continue on looking at the free-for-all. Steve Austin interrupts Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler and he says tonight's match shouldn't be happening. Austin says he won the Royal Rumble fair and square and he should have been facing Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, but seeing as Gorilla Monsoon made the Final 4 match and seeing as Shawn Michaels vacated the title, things haven't exactly been going the way Stone Cold planned. Unfortunately, the promo gets cut short and the WWF decide to air a promo video all about Stone Cold's recent rise in the company, and this is a shame. Austin was just ripping into HBK for being a coward before the video began playing. When we come back, Austin is making fun of the fans in attendance, but he gets interrupted by The Undertaker. We then get a look at the entranceway for this In Your House show, and it's the Superstars set that they've used here, not the classic house entranceway. And it does make the show feel a little cheap in terms of production. Taker says Austin made a mistake agreeing to this match. Austin tries to talk into his mic, but it's been cut off. Taker says Austin's going to get his ass kicked, Vader will get planted 6 foot deep, and the dead man plans on taking care of the Hitman too. Taker says Austin shouldn't be in the ring running his mouth, he should be in the back making his final arrangements. Stone Cold is going to rest in peace tonight. After an Undertaker video package airs, we get this arena shot where we can see a match is underway, but it doesn't get shown. It's the Godwins versus the Headbangers, by the way. We then get a replay of Shawn losing his smile and the championship getting forfeited. And afterwards, Jim Ross says that Shawn will visit Dr. Andrews tomorrow in Birmingham, Alabama for a consultation. We then get a look at the final 4 match rules, and basically it's an elimination match, no disqualifications. You can get eliminated by pinfall, submission, or going over the top rope. A video package for Bret Hart then plays, and it tells the story of Bret's WWF return and why things haven't been going so well for the excellence of execution. The final 4 match though will give Hart 2 things that he's wanted pretty desperately: a chance to get his hands on Austin and a chance to win the WWF Championship. Hart gets interviewed by Kevin Kelly next, and Kevin wants to know how Bret Hart feels about Shawn Michaels. Hart says he assumes Shawn is legitimately hurt. Bret says he sympathises with Michaels, but in this game, you gotta be careful. Hart says he thinks Shawn will come back, and Bret says when that happens, he still wants a match against the Heartbreak Kid. Bret says he feels great, he's at 100%, and he says he has no doubt that the excellence of execution will prevail tonight in the final 4. Vader and Paul Bearer then get interviewed by Doc Hendricks. Paul says it's a shame Doc isn't a real doctor because 3 men are gonna need one later tonight. Vader says he's beat Austin, he's beat Bret, and he's beat The Undertaker. That means Vader is the odds-on favourite to leave the final 4 as the WWF Champion. Hendricks then hypes up the crowd just before the free-for-all ends. Again, a great companion piece for tonight's main event. You learn everything you need to know by watching the free-for-all. Alright, let's check out this pay-per-view then. Our first match is absolutely random. Leif Cassidy versus Wildman Marc Mero. JR and King are going to call the whole pay-per-view. Hugo Savinovich and Carlos Cabrera are at the Spanish announce table. And over on the French table, we have a fabulous Rougeau. No, not an amazing French-Canadian. A fabulous Rougeau. Ray Rougeau and Jean Brassard provide commentary for In Your House Final 4. Mero pulls off a few arm drag takedowns at the beginning of the match, and look at this fancy footwork here, what a guy. Mero follows up with a wrist lock before performing a fireman's carry. We then see an armbar from the Wildman, and the armbar stays applied after Mero performs a suplex. Marc begins slamming Cassidy down repeatedly by the head, and Jim Ross says that Marc has gotten way more aggressive over these past few weeks. I honestly hadn't noticed. Leif slides out of the ring where he's able to do some damage to Mero's knee. You'll notice Sable is wearing sunglasses tonight because her husband's future looks super bright. And Sable ends up kicking Cassidy, forcing Cassidy to lose focus on his opponent. Mero comes back with a double axe handle and he gets back inside the ring with a vaulting leg drop. Mero then tells Cassidy, "You do not mess with Sable," but I'm pretty sure Sable was messing with Cassidy. And Leif makes Mero pay for this unsavoury comment by nailing a low running dropkick not once but twice. Cassidy focuses on Mero's left leg as the Wildman hobbles around the ring. There's this awkward bit here where Cassidy just gives Mero his head for a right hand, but Cassidy keeps the pressure on by trying to hyperextend Mero's leg on the mat. The match then stays on the mat for what feels like an eternity, with Cassidy maintaining focus on the left leg. When the 2 men get back up, Mero again tries to fight back in the corner, but Cassidy puts him right back down and it's straight back to the leg. I hope Mero remembers to sell it afterwards. Another fight in the corner. Mero uses his good leg to kick Cassidy, and then he pulls off an enziguri with his good leg, thank God. Cassidy makes Mero pay by hitting a knee breaker, and then Cassidy pulls off a figure 4. Mero begins struggling towards the bottom rope, and Sable helps Marc by pushing it about half an inch forward. Marc grabs the rope, and so Leif goes to the outside to give Sable an earful. Sable slaps Cassidy, and when Leif tries to retaliate, Mero jumps out of the ring, and yes, his leg has completely healed up after around 5 minutes of absolute torture. This is pretty much the end of the match. Marc hits a few kicks, Marc pulls off a Samoan drop, and then we see the wild thing. Marc Mero wins via pinfall in what was an absolutely abysmal opening match. We talked about Dean Malenko and Ultimo Dragon at Starrcade 96 being one of the unsung best opening matches in pay-per-view history, and this, well, it's the complete opposite. The Honky Tonk Man comes out next for absolutely no reason whatsoever. I'm guessing he cut a promo while fans at home were shown another replay of HBK losing his smile. But yeah, on the television broadcast, Honky Tonk Man appears and then he disappears following the replay. Psycho Sid promotes tomorrow night's Monday Night Raw broadcast, reminding fans that he's got a title shot against whoever wins the Final Four tonight. We have a 6-man tag next, the Nation of Domination versus Flash Funk, Goldust and Bart Gunn. Ross and Lawler try to explain that there's actually a little history between these competitors while ignoring Flash Funk. That history is based on Gunn and Goldust losing matches due to Nation members helping each other out, but that doesn't change the fact that this match feels absolutely random. The entrances, I'm not kidding, take up just as much time as the match itself. And Farouk can't find a working microphone in order to cut a promo. He gets visibly annoyed at this and Goldust decides to attack the Nation's leader to save him from any further embarrassment. The babyfaces clear out the ring to begin with and Flash Funk performs a nice diving crossbody on all 3 competing members of the Nation. When the match settles down, we get Goldust and Farouk followed by Goldust quickly tagging out, allowing Flash Funk to come in and allowing Farouk to pull off a spinebuster. Savio Vega gets tagged in afterwards and Funk pulls off a top rope Hurricane Rana, and check this out. Gunn throws Funk over the top rope and Funk lands a crossbody on the outside to his 3 opponents, and the Nation decide to grab Funk afterwards and give him a beating. It's a small thing, but it makes a lot of sense. Ross says the move was a calculated risk that didn't pay off. This little slip up leads to Savio briefly taking control in the ring. Crush and Farouk get tagged in and it looks like it's all over for Funk, but Flash manages to get a knee up and he smashes Farouk's little dominators. Funk didn't buy himself enough time though, the Nation stay in control and Flash takes a spike piledriver while the referee was distracted. The crowd finally begin making some noise when Flash Funk pulls off this double team reversal and he hits Savio and Farouk with a double clothesline. Bart Gunn then gets tagged in and he's all fired up. The match breaks down into another giant brawl, but Bart manages to pull off a top rope bulldog. Crush breaks up the follow-up pin attempt with a leg drop, and that's how this match ended. Farouk pins Gunn after the leg drop and it's all over. Flash Funk had a few good little moments here, but again, it isn't what anyone would call a great match. You get the feeling that we're wasting time here until the Final Four match. Doc Hendricks interviews Steve Austin, and Doc says Austin must be concerned that he doesn't hold a clean victory over any of his opponents tonight. And Austin replies by saying he threw all 3 over the top rope, and this jackass Doc Hendricks needs to understand that that counts as a clean victory. Austin says this Final Four match is all political. It's the same thing that's kept Austin down for 7 long years. But tonight, Austin is going to win the Final Four, and tonight, Steve Austin will become WWF Champion. Next up, inside the ring, we have Triple H getting a rematch for the IC title he lost on Thursday Raw Thursday. Helmsley vs Maivia wasn't bad at all on Raw, so hopefully they have a solid pay-per-view match here at In Your House. Interesting stuff to start off with though. I said that the opening sequence during the Raw match was very crisp and they went through the moves well. But here there's a failure to communicate when Rock goes for a drop toe hold and Hunter thinks it's a drop down. Thankfully the recovery is absolutely fine and Hunter slaps Rocky around a little afterwards, just like the Raw match. Maivia composes himself and he pulls off his dropkick followed by an arm drag. Hunter is momentarily locked in an armbar, but he gets to his feet and he slaps Rocky hard. Rocky retaliates with a slap of his own, and Hunter falls to the mat. Jim Ross says Hunter is playing Rocky here. Triple H wants to get Rock so fired up that the rookie ends up forgetting the basics. Maivia takes a few hard chops in the corner, but he replies with a back body drop. He then goes to the armbar again as the commentators talk about Rocky's dad and granddad. Once both men are back up, Hunter manages to throw Rock out of the ring and Helmsley performs a baseball slide that sends Rocky into the guardrail. Hunter then performs a body slam on the outside and an elbow drop from the apron finds its target, and when the competitors get back inside the ring, Hunter performs a suplex. Jim Ross accidentally calls it a slewpex and Lawler calls him out.
A what? A suplex. I could have sworn you said slewpex.
After hitting Rock with a knee drop, Hunter applies a chin lock. Yes. And when Hunter tries to use the ropes for leverage, Earl Hebner forcefully breaks the hold. This allows Rocky to get up, but Hunter puts the IC champ right back down with a knee to the jaw. Rock then kicks out of a pin attempt and he tries to end the match the same way he did on Raw, but Hunter just kicks out. It was very close to being a 3 count though. This infuriates Hunter. Triple H performs a backbreaker and he follows this up with another chin lock. That's 2 for those keeping count. And Rock replies by performing a crossbody. Hunter holds onto the ropes when Rock tries to hit another dropkick, but Triple H's follow-up knee drop completely misses its target. Still, Hunter gets back to his feet before Rock and Maivia takes a rake to the eyes. I just noticed our guy in the audience here wearing a sick hat and wearing a 4 Horsemen shirt. That's a man who conducts a lot of horseman business. Hunter almost takes Maivia's head off with a hard clothesline and the crowd are now cheering for Triple H. He goes upstairs for an aerial attack but Rock counters with a punch, and I absolutely hate this bump Hunter takes afterwards. Maivia begins building momentum with a few right hands and Hunter takes the Flair corner bump before getting floored with another big right. And then Rocky hits a power slam. Rock stands up and the crowd boos. He tries to end it with a top rope crossbody that looked really good, but it only gets a 2 count. Hunter slams Rocky's chin hard on the top turnbuckle during a 10 punch attempt, and he tries to cheat again by using the ropes during a cover, but Rock kicks out, barely. Rock performs a float over DDT, Helmsley lands a neckbreaker, and then Goldust comes out the ringside. Hunter gets distracted, Maivia performs a bridging suplex, and that's how the match ended. Rock wins via pinfall. So far, this was the best match on the card, and again, these two worked pretty well with each other even back in early 1997, but I didn't like the finish at all. Marlena is now at ringside. It looks like Goldust wants to get in the ring and fight Hunter, but then a fan begins choking Marlena at the guardrail, and this causes quite the panic. Security guards escort the woman away and Marlena looks pretty shaken up by what just happened, but yes, this was the debut of China. Before we move on to our next match, Vader lets us all know what he thinks of his 3 opponents tonight, and Paul Bearer reminds us that Vader has already beaten his fellow Final 4 competitors in singles matches. Paul says we're currently looking at the next WWF Champion, and tonight we're all gonna know what time it is. Doug Furnas and Phil Lafon versus Owen and Bulldog is our next match. Owen and Davey have been having problems. Not only did Owen eliminate Davey from the Royal Rumble, but Owen has also been feigning knee injuries in order to win matches via countout. He even left Davey in the ring all alone on Thursday Raw Thursday, and Bulldog took a beating from Crush and Farouk. The tag champs are weakened it seems, so this is a good opportunity for Furnas and Lafon to take advantage and pick up the tag team titles. Owen Hart and Doug Furnas start this one off and Furnas brings Owen down with a waistlock takedown. Owen quickly rolls out but he's unable to grab the wrist afterwards. Owen ends up taking a hip toss and an arm drag takeover before Doug Furnas applies an armbar. Phil Lafon ends up getting tagged in and Owen gets a little cocky after a pin attempt. This leads to a series of pin attempts and neither man is able to pick up an early victory. Lafon goes for a hip toss but when that doesn't work he successfully rolls under Owen and he applies a knee bar. Remember, Owen was pretending to have knee problems so he argues with the referee when Lafon won't break the hold. Owen made it to the ropes. Davey gets tagged in and Lafon goes for a handshake, clearly not understanding that the British Bulldog is bizarre. Davey lands a forearm but he fails to maintain the advantage afterwards. After performing a sunset flip and after Davey kicks out, the Bulldog goes for a suplex but Lafon counters and he hits a wheel kick. The referee then gets distracted by Furnas and this allows Owen and Davey to get in a few cheap shots just before Owen gets tagged back in. The champs continue to cheat as our match continues on. Owen pulls off a crossbody but Lafon rolls through. Owen kicks out and he rakes his opponent's face to stay in control. Hart then nails a gut wrench suplex and a backbreaker but he can't keep Lafon down for a 3 count. Davey comes back in and we see a double clothesline. Lafon then manages to pin Bulldog after Davey made a mistake, but Owen keeps the referee distracted and Lafon ends up taking a clothesline. This match would be a great case study for up and coming heel tag teams. Owen and Davey are pulling off every dirty trick they can think of. Owen comes back in and he goes for a sharpshooter but Lafon kicks Owen away. The King of Hearts decides to keep softening his opponent up and the fans are now getting behind the babyfaces. They want to see Furnas tagged in. For a team that's supposed to be having problems, Owen and Davey are working extremely well together here, and they've done a great job of keeping Lafon away from his corner. Davey helps Owen during a roll-up and Furnas runs in to fix the pin, but Owen kicks out. And forget what I just said about Owen and Davey working well together, because Owen gets angry over the pin attempt. This allows Furnas to bash Owen and Davey's heads together, and things aren't looking so good for the champs. Owen ends up accidentally hitting Davey with a spinning wheel kick, and the challengers now have a real opportunity. Lafon pins Davey, but Davey gets a foot on the ropes. Bulldog gets up, Owen slaps him across the face, and Davey nails his partner with a hard clothesline. Lafon again tries to take advantage of this apparent breakup by hitting a top rope splash, but Davey breaks up the pin. Bulldog is pissed off at Owen, but he still wants to be a tag team champion. Furnas finally gets tagged in, but the stuff with Owen and Davey has completely killed the potential hot tag pop. Owen takes a beating here due to Furnas and Lafon quickly tagging in and out. And check this out, a tag team combo move that sees Owen get absolutely planted with a DDT. Fantastic stuff. Davey again saves Owen and Hart hits an enziguri on Furnas. Davey then gets tagged in and he does well in keeping his opponents at bay, but it doesn't take long for all four men to end up in the ring and we have a brawl on our hands. The match ends with Owen and Davey getting thrown into each other. Owen goes to the outside and he grabs his Slammy award, and just as Davey was about to end it with a running power slam, Owen hits Lafon and the referee calls for the bell. Furnas and Lafon win via disqualification. Owen and Davey then argue afterwards. Davey throws down the tag team titles and he even breaks Owen's Slammy award. But just like Raw a few weeks ago, Clarence Mason and Owen sway Davey, and Bulldog reluctantly accepts the outcome of the match. This was a good tag bout though that had a good mix of in-ring action, tag team psychology and drama. I enjoyed this one more than Maivia versus Helmsley. It's now time for the final four match, the big draw of the show. Again, this is where I would have added content from that previous video I made, but hey, let's do it again. I love watching this match, plus that previous video has some bad audio. The Undertaker gets interviewed and he says he's in the middle of rediscovering his edge and the old Undertaker is slowly coming back. This spells doom for Austin, Vader and Bret Hart. By hook or by crook, the WWF title will belong to the Undertaker tonight, and Taker's opponents can only hope that the dead man spares their lives. Vader makes his entrance first, followed by Steve Austin and then The Undertaker. After Undertaker's entrance, we get a Bret Hart pre-match interview where Bret says all three of his opponents are tough and all three opponents will be a challenge tonight. The Hitman says there's no excuses, whoever wins this one deserves to be champion, and Bret says the best man is gonna win this final four match, and that man will be Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret then makes his entrance, and check this out, Bret looks directly at this kid as he removes his pink and black glasses. The kid must have been super excited to get those shades, but then Bret totally swerves him and the kid with the glasses here gets the shades instead. Absolutely brutal. All four men are now in the ring, the bell sounds, and each competitor takes the time to consider who they should attack first. Vader and Taker begin slugging it out, as does Bret and Austin. Taker hits his jumping clothesline and then he decides to attack Austin and Hart. The dead man hits old school on Austin, but afterwards Bret punches Taker and the dead man takes a belly to belly from Vader. The Phenom sits up like nothing happened, but Vader knocks him out of the ring. Vader then grabs a steel chair, and while he's successful in using the weapon at first, the dead man gets a boot up and the chair gets pushed into Vader's face. The big man blades while he's down. He then gets thrown into the ring steps, and Vader's face is already a mess that's going to continue to get worse. All four men are in the ring and Austin counters a Bret Hart sleeper with a jawbreaker. Austin tries to pin Bret afterwards, but Bret kicks out at 2. The Undertaker then performs a chokeslam on Vader. Austin then nails Taker with a Stone Cold Stunner, but he doesn't get all of it. Taker's able to kick out as Vader and Bret Hart start going to work. Vader hits a low blow on Bret. This causes Hart to roll out of the ring as Taker and Austin continue fighting inside the ropes. Vader ends up using the chair again and Bret takes a few shots to the back. Afterwards, Austin and Taker decide to fight on the outside and Taker counters a piledriver attempt with a back body drop. Taker then moves back to the ring where he goes after Bret, and this means Stone Cold and Vader do a little more work on the outside. Vader ends up taking a beating as Stone Cold uses the ring steps on the big man, but Vader turns it around with a few big right hands. We then get this moment I talked about in the previous Final 4 video where Vader decides he doesn't want to take another bump on the ring steps, so he gives it a miss and he throws himself into a member of staff instead. I like how Vader gives the steps a little pat while saying to himself, nah, fuck that. Vader and Austin beat the hell out of each other by the guardrails and Vader comes out on top. The Hitman takes a clothesline from the dead man back inside the ring, and not a person on floor level is sitting down. The crowd are completely eating this one up. Vader pulls Bret out of the ring. The Undertaker allows Vader to take the Hitman up the entranceway for a beating, while the Phenom takes care of Austin. Bret ends up throwing Vader over the guardrail and Bret nails Vader with a few right hands in the audience before both men make their way back to the ring. Bret gets his head smashed into the ring steps as Steve Austin hits a flying clothesline on The Undertaker. We then see Psycho Sid watching the match backstage, eager to see who he'll be facing tomorrow night on Raw. Vader then applies a sharpshooter on Bret, but it's broken up by Austin and Undertaker. This leads to Stone Cold again focusing on Bret, while Vader and The Undertaker begin fighting once again. After taking care of Vader, Taker makes his way over to Hart and Austin, and Bret holds Stone Cold up, allowing Taker to get in a few rights and lefts. Austin ends up in the ring where he performs a Luthez press on Vader, and then Taker and Bret get back inside the ropes and it's just absolute carnage. Taker gets hit with a Vader clothesline, Austin gets hit with a Bret Hart piledriver. Vader then goes all the way up for a Vader salt, but The Undertaker moves out of the way. Vader decides he needs a timeout afterwards, but it isn't long before The Undertaker gives chase as Bret and Stone Cold continue fighting inside the ring. Undertaker and Vader choke each other with some cable on the outside and Stone Cold tries to throw Bret over the top rope, but Hart stays in. The competitors then change it up a little and they switch opponents, and Bret ends up hitting Vader with a low blow as we reach the final 10 minutes of this pay-per-view. Taker gets his knee smashed into the ring post before he and Stone Cold try to eliminate each other back in the ring, but neither man goes out. Austin very nearly gets sent over the top rope, but he hangs on and he keeps himself in the match for another few moments. But he can't hold on when Bret dumps him over the top rope afterwards. Steve Austin is the first man eliminated. Hart, Vader and Undertaker take turns at beating each other up, but Taker ends up on the outside where Paul Bearer hits him with the urn. While The Undertaker tries to recuperate, Vader climbs the turnbuckles. The Hitman wakes up and Vader ends up taking a superplex. Bret then goes for the sharpshooter, but for whatever reason, The Undertaker gets in the ring and he breaks the hold. Even JR says this is a strange thing for The Undertaker to do. With Bret now on the outside, Steve Austin comes back out and he attacks the excellence of execution. Bret tries to get back in the ring and the officials try to keep Austin out. And while all this happens, Undertaker hits Vader so hard in the balls that Vader flies over the top rope. Vader has been eliminated from the Final 4. Austin is now in the ring and this is something The Undertaker won't allow. Austin takes a clothesline and he rolls to the outside, allowing Bret and Taker to settle this thing. The Hitman takes a choke slam, The Undertaker signals for the end and he goes for a tombstone, but Austin is so obsessed with hurting Bret Hart that the rattlesnake grabs Bret's foot while Taker was trying to perform his finishing move. Taker attacks Austin, giving Bret a chance to roll up the Phenom, but The Undertaker kicks out. Bret then tries to get Austin away from the ring apron and Taker joins in. The dead man takes care of Stone Cold, but this allows Bret to eliminate The Undertaker. Bret the Hitman Hart wins the Final 4 and he becomes a 4-time WWF Champion in the process. What a match this was, and I said this previously, I feel this one doesn't get enough credit. The Undertaker looks pissed off at what happened and he watches on as Bret celebrates in the ring. Hart had finally won the championship after many setbacks in late 96 and early 97, but now he has to face Psycho Sid on Monday Night Raw. The challenger comes out at the end of the show to remind Bret about what awaits him tomorrow night. If you don't feel like watching this pay-per-view, at least skip the rest and watch this main event. It's such an entertaining matchup, and I'm actually really glad I watched it all again for this video. It's hard to recommend this show as a whole, but the main event makes up for the shortcomings of the first few matches. In Your House 13 does get progressively better as the show goes on, with each match topping the previous match, but it's still one of the weaker overall pay-per-views of 1997. The main event is fantastic though. It feels like a big reward for sitting through the opening bouts, and the two matches beforehand, the IC title match and the tag title match, those aren't bad at all either, but they certainly aren't essential viewing. Put simply though, if you enjoy wrestling from this era, then make sure you watch the Final 4 match. Bret leaves the arena as WWF Champion, but the story continues on tomorrow's Raw. Some big things go down on the WWF's flagship weekly show, so remember to subscribe to the channel and check out Reliving the War episode 71 if you want to see what happens next. Thanks for watching this one guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you join me again next week.